I'm Risa McCann, and I work here at my favorite quilt store, and I wanted to talk to you today about things you can do with your scraps or the remaining fabrics you might have after completing a project. One of the most amazing things that one of the girls here makes are hair scrunchies. You can see I don't need a hair scrunchie, but my granddaughters do. They have that gorgeous long hair that they can wrap these around. And so Kelly has created a variety of hair scrunchies, and she keeps them on her desk. This is a pattern that we have. Actually, it's on a blog post on the My Favorite Quilt Store website. So do take a look at that and get stitching. Another idea you can use your scraps for are eyeglass cases. Very simple, made with scrap batting and pieces that I grabbed out of my stash of scraps. I made these one year for Christmas presents. They are pin cushions, filled them with walnut shells, keep my Band-Aids on one side and my safety pins on the other. So I love my pin cushion, and you can definitely personalize these according to who you're giving it to from your stash of scraps. This is precious. This reminds me of a postage stamp quilt where you're using the mini charms, stitching them together, and then making them into a zipper bag. Okay? So we're going to talk in a minute about pre-cuts and how to make those from your scraps, but just the concept of the zipper bag. Depending on the size, how many scraps you have, you can tailor that to fit. Another video that we have on the website store, or on the website for the store, are rope bowls. And you can see there's a distinct change in the rope bowl itself, because when this bowl was created, the rope was wrapped with fabric strips. And when I say fabric strips, nothing more than a strip like this wrapped around the rope, and then the rope is sewn together. And by the way, isn't this a clever desk decoration? By color, just strips of fabric, and she changes it occasionally, but it sits on her desk here at the store. Okay, so again, the rope bowl, this is on our blog post for the store. We will carry these books. I highly recommend Quilter's Scrap Pantry. Has lots of these ideas, lots of new ideas, even how to organize your scraps at home. So be sure and check the website under Notions for the Quilter's Scrap Pantry book. Continuing along with things that you can do with your scraps, I made a series of bowl holders, and they're reversible. And this is totally from my scraps. Tried to organize it so that the black and white stripe looked cute with the black background. We sell these rulers here at the store for the various sizes of bowl holders. And during the wintertime, it makes a great way to transfer your hot chili from the microwave to the table. And eating popcorn, you can just fill your bowl holder with popcorn, no bowl necessary. Toss it in the wash when you're done. Again, these are made with scrap batting. So always save your leftover batting, because you never know when you'll be able to use it again. We have a variety of mug rug patterns. This is a mug rug that I actually made from an antique quilt that was in shreds, that I had no problem cutting small pieces of the quilt before I threw it away. Did a little embroidery on it, used scraps for the binding, and then made sets for each of my friends that we have Friday morning coffee together. So mug rugs, check out our patterns. This is something that I've never attempted, but we sell lots of patterns for these. These are the stuffed animals, and isn't he cute, the little bee? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different scrap fabrics. So surely you can put your scraps to use making one of the many, many stuffed animal from the patterns that we sell. Another idea, which I think is brilliant, and I wish I could claim it, but it was given to me by Kelly, who works here at the store. She uses her scraps to make practice blocks. When she's trying to learn a particular block, she will grab her scraps, put them together, And that way she's not ruining or making mistakes with the fabric that she truly wants to use in the quilt. And then eventually you can take all these orphan blocks and put them into a very scrappy quilt. But what a great idea to use your scraps to practice and make perfect squares. This is a simple project that I created just because everybody can draw a ladybug and everybody loves ladybugs, kids included. I was practicing my applique technique when I created this, and again, looked through my stash of scraps, grabbed red, grabbed white, black and white, and came up with a precious ladybug, backed it with another scrap. It's so fun. We do sell heat and bond types of products here, so be sure and look those up. I think we have a hot fix product and several other options for you. Let me set this aside. This is an applique that I did with an embroidery pattern, and it's all, again, scraps from my stash, and I just stood there and looked for Easter colored scraps, pulled it out, and had so much fun making these bunnies and these cute little chicks for Easter, or springtime actually. Moving along with what you can do with your fabric scraps, we have a very talented employee, and he is great with a product called Mod Podge. It's a fabric glue that you can buy at a local craft store, and he fussy cuts different things. As you can see, this is Tula Pink with her beautiful elephant. He glued it on a very simple wooden box frame. Perhaps there was even something under the frame, under this fabric that he didn't care for anymore, and just Mod Podged this on top. This is where I think he's super clever. He actually took diaper wipe containers and glued the elephant on the top with the Mod Podge, and then we fill these with tissues, or you could fill it with candy or just about anything else you wanted to use it for. So again, using your scraps, fussy cutting, and using a fabric glue to put it together. I've learned to sew with what I call leaders and enders. A leader is a piece of fabric that you put in first before you start your stitching, and it prevents the needle from taking the fabric down in through the throat plate. Start in the middle of your leader and just stitch, and then slide your quilt right on so that it's a continuous chain stitch. And again, I use them at the end of my long stitches or any row of stitches to prevent that from going off, and it's just a very easy snip when you're done. But all of my fabric pieces that are this size, I throw them in a box right next to my sewing machine, and when I start, I just grab a handful of them. When I go on a retreat, I take a handful of leaders and enders as well. One of the things that I've learned to do with my scraps is make my own pre-cuts. Again, if I had a little bit larger than these pieces, I could make 2.5-inch charms or mini charms and turn them into a bag. I have created 5-inch blocks from scraps that I have at the house in my scrap pile, and I've organized these all by similar color. I know that because this is a 5-inch square, if I did 9 squares across, 9 squares down, 81 squares, that would give me a nice medium to smaller size lap quilt. I can always add more. I can vary the colors, but to me this gives me a sense of peace as I'm organizing my scraps to have a future project. I can go in one day, grab this, whip out something, put it with the batting, the binding, and give it as a quick quilt. I created, or I'm in the process right now of creating, a king-size quilt, and I'm using Tula Pink fabrics. As I used my ruler to cut, I had lots of extra fabric, and it just so happened I could make 2.5-inch wide strips from all the scraps left over. So I've put them together in a bundle, and I plan to make a jelly roll quilt one day. And this was totally scrap from another project I was using, but I couldn't throw it away. I encourage you to keep your scraps and use them. At a retreat recently, one of our friends who was there with us had these design boards that she had created. It is nothing more than a foam core board with scrap batting and then a finished edge, a binding edge. So taking these 2.5-inch scrap strips, folding it up like binding, and then gluing it around the edges, I was able to create several, and they're scrappy, they don't match, but they look good together, several of these design boards. I will use them when I'm trying to piece together a block, put my block on, and take it from my design wall to my sewing machine, and I can walk with it anywhere I want to, and the block is going to stay on the small design board. So I encourage you to look up how to do this, figure it out, and use your scrap bindings to do this. Another idea that an employee made here, and we actually have this as a blog on our website, is a scrappy wreath made from fabrics from past projects. It's adorable, it's easy, it's knotting. You can visit with a friend, you can FaceTime a friend, whatever you want while you're creating this. It's a great opportunity to use your scraps. I'm actually going on a trip this summer with friends, and it's a craft retreat. This will be a project that I get to teach. It's a folded star. It uses 4-inch strips that are 18 inches long. So I've been saving all my batiks and putting them in a little area in my sewing room, and we'll make these stars out of batik fabrics. It's going to be summertime, so I'm using summer colors of fabrics. This was given to me as a Christmas gift. As you can see, it's all in Christmas fabrics. So I hope I've given you lots of ideas as to how you can use your scraps. Of course, one thing I did not have an example of was a Mondo bag, again, using the postage stamp quilt format. Lanyards, I've seen lanyards made. I think we might even have the hardware for making lanyards out in the store. You can create lanyards out of fabric. We'll have to attach links for the projects that we do have to the video. One last thing is an I Spy quilt. Some of these things, some of the fabrics that you might have something like an elephant that you could weave into the I Spy quilt. Or perhaps it's a Disney princess or other fabric pieces that have mushrooms or gnomes or any other product or icon or what symbol, whatever you would call it, that you could create an I Spy quilt with. And then last idea is upcycling clothing. I was looking on Pinterest one day, and a person had taken a pair of jeans that had a hole and used scrap fabrics to make patches that were underneath the jeans on the inside of the leg of the jeans, and then did creative stitching around it. It was really very attractive. I'll have to try that if I get holes in my jeans. So I hope we've given you some ideas. Again, look at the bottom of this video and you'll be able to see the links to the products that we sell at the store that can help you be creative at home. Thanks.